ethnic cleansing doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes it's tree by tree, home by home, village by village, permits being denied, bulldozers appearing in the afternoon, protected by a neighboring army, families forced to leave, until eventually entire people begin disappearing from the land they've lived on for generations. And sadly, we see widespread destruction of ecosystems and infrastructure end up being used as a tool of subjugation by fascist warmongers, and today that's exactly what we're going to cover. Agriculture and land are directly tied to identity in Palestine, where half of it is walled off, occupied, and surrounded by quadcopters, drones, and cameras, in a place that has seen destruction levels surpassing those of Dresden and London during World War II, where 68 million tons of rubble sits and 100,000 tons of explosives have been dropped, and that which is sanctioned by the world ends up seeing agriculture and land and the means to production becoming a vital necessity to continue living. So let's get straight into it, starting with ways the Palestinians are impacted. So let's start with water access restrictions. Water access in the occupied West Bank is heavily controlled through a system of restrictions that has left many Palestinian communities facing chronic shortages, while nearby settlements maintain consistent and modern water infrastructure. Palestinians often require permits to drill wells, repair water systems, or collect rainwater, yet these permits are frequently denied.
Wherever you have a settlement and you have people living beside the settlement, the settlers inside the settlement, they get water and they drink water, they use water, while people outside the settlement, they cannot have access to water.
What's stopping the Palestinians from putting a mother of a pump and getting more water?
Well, sometimes they are not allowed to do that because that well is in an area which is fully occupied and they need a permit to access that area to pump the water.
Area A of the West Bank is controlled by Palestinian Authority. Area B is a mixture of Palestinian Authority and Israeli control, and Area C is fully under Israeli occupation. When we're talking about the water access restrictions, we are primarily talking about Area C. In many rural and herding communities, residents are forced to purchase expensive water through Mekara, that being expensive water that even though it's coming through their own land, or survive on limited supplies that are insufficient for agriculture, livestock, and daily life.
ذلك بكلفني كوب المي 20 ل 25 شيكل كوب المي. يعني بنحكي عن كل يوم بعد يوم بدي 10 كوب مي 250 شيكل. بينما انه المي اذا بتوجه مني ولا شمال للغرب ماسوره المي بتبعد عني 100 متر عن بيتي وممنوع مثل النقطه هاي اشرب منها، محرومين بالمي.
ابيض هلا بعمل كمان دور على امل انها الدور ان شاء الله يدوروها. قالوا لي احتمال مش نازل بالجدول منطقه الضاحيه اليوم، مش نازل، لا مش نازل بالجدول الضاحيه اليوم، ما بعرف. قالوا لي يمكن بكره، بس خلص شو بدي اعمل؟ بدي اغامر.
بتعرفي انه في ناس كتير في مناطق يمكن قريبه منا انه فيش عندهم اصلا تنكات مي، المي على طول 24 ساعه بالحنفيه، مش في مناطق الضفه، مناطق مجاوره.
Through my many hours of chronically sitting at my computer, I've seen time and time again how Palestinian homes have these black jugs on top of their houses to store rainwater, and oftentimes you'll see both those and big silos on roads with bullet holes through them from people who once drove by and shot them up. I previously mentioned Mekara, and you have the inequality going on there where illegal settlements receive abundant water, often exceeding 400 liters per capita per day. Palestinians in the same region receive significantly less, with some areas reporting averages as low as 60 to 72 liters per capita per day. Without water, communities cannot remain, and agriculture collapse is directly tied to water denial. We're going to move on from that. Now we have farmland destruction, and here I could get into oranges and many other types of fruits and plants and resources, but I think the olive tree best represents Palestinian culture and rings true for this next one. Some are centuries old, inherited through generations, tied to identity and continuity. Harvest seasons are cultural and community gatherings, and the uprooting, the arson, the vandalism, the seizure of groves near settlements, many of these groves predating the state of Israel itself. It's family histories being rooted in soil. Their destruction is symbolic as much as material, and it's the removal of what could be permanence and what should be. Now, settlement expansion in the occupied West Bank does not occur as one coordinated event, but as gradually and highly structured processes of mixing civilian settler activity with military enforcement and state infrastructure, along with legal mechanisms that work together together over time, and often expansions begin with the establishment of small settler outposts on hilltops, elevated or near Palestinian communities, many of which are initially considered illegal under Israeli law. Despite this, these outposts frequently receive military protection almost immediately, and settlers establish them knowing this is the de facto process, with soldiers guarding access roads, restricting nearby Palestinian movement, or declaring surrounding areas closed military zones after confrontations occur. Oftentimes, roads, electricity, water infrastructure, and security zones are extended outward from larger settlements into these newer outposts, integrating them into the broader settlement network before official legalization takes place. While nearby Palestinian communities face an entirely different system. Now, something I have not mentioned but is important for that clip that we just saw is that if land is used in good faith by the settlers, then over maybe 60 to 90 to 200 days, it becomes Israeli state land. This has been used to take over 5,000 homes in the last 7 or so years since 2017. But even if you go back the last 20 years, you've had major escalations in the settler movement. It used to be 100,000, now it's near 1 million. Beginning of the 60s, it was 0. And I hope that what you just saw on the screen of that Palestinian man losing his land to show you the dark reality of the situation, that this is state-sponsored and has been, truthfully, when you look into it, since the 1950s and 60s. Shortly after the Nakba, which, by the way, the May 15th this year is the day to remember the Nakba. And I understand that when you're making claims that ethnic cleansing is sponsored by the government and has been going on for so long, that you really need to prove the point. We should probably talk about the comparisons between the governing of the West Bank and South Africa apartheid.
Do you see comparisons with the situation here as to the situation in South Africa, the apartheid?
The situation here in many ways is far, far worse. The Bantustans, for example, the smallest, tiniest joke of a Bantustan is bigger than the entire West Bank. And the West Bank is now cut up into like 93 little areas that to move from one to the other, you need to go through Israeli checkpoints.
In the 2000s, he took part in all the international discussions on the status of Palestine. At the time, privately, he met Ariel Sharon, the future Israeli Prime Minister. Sharon let him in on a few secrets.
Il a fait un voyage en Europe, il a été reçu par le responsable politique européen, et moi aussi je l'ai reçu. En réalité, Sharon il m'a dit, il y a plusieurs années, qu'il faut donner aux Palestiniens des zones qui sont administrées par les Palestiniens à l'intérieur de la sécurité israélienne, et s'ils pensent d'appeler ça État, ils peuvent le faire, oui. Il m'avait dit, finalement, c'était en privé, c'était confidentiel, et il a dit, bon, quelque chose comme les Bantoustans.
Et le mot Bantoustan a été prononcé par Sharon?
Oui, mais c'était...
Okay. Ariel Sharon knows what's up. But that's not the guy who's been prime minister for 28 years out of like 32 or anything like that, right? He's not in on it too, right?
He recognized that a Palestinian state must be big enough to be viable, to be independent, to be prosperous.
תן פירוש להסכם שיאפשר לי להפסיק את הדירה הזאת לקווי 67. איך עשינו את זה? הוא אמר מה זה אתרים צבאיים מוגדרים. אתרים צבאיים מוגדרים, אני אמרתי אלה אזורי ביטחון. בקעת הירדן מבחינתי זה אתר צבאי מוגדר. נכון. זה אוקיי. לך תגיד, אבל אז הייתה שאלה, מי יגדיר?
Sukkot is a member of Smotrich's party and lives in a settlement overlooking Palestinian towns. Your party leader has been explicit. The idea is to kill off the prospect of a Palestinian state. That's the reality, isn't it?
Of course. אנחנו באמת רוצים להרוג את המדינה הפלסטינית מפני שהדבר הזה הוא מדינת טרור בלב מדינת ישראל. זה גזר דין מוות על המדינה היהודית, ולכן אנחנו נעשה הכל כדי שלא תקום כאן מדינת דין שלשמה הוא נבחר. ואין אגב שאנחנו נבחר גם לגסת הבאה.
בעזה הוא האויב. אנחנו צריכים לכבוש את עזה וליישבה ושלא יישאר שם ילד עזתי אחד.
Building permits are routinely denied, homes and agriculture structures receive demolition orders, access to farmland becomes increasingly restricted, settler violence often escalates without meaningful intervention or prosecution. The result is a dual system in which one population continuously expands its presence across the land, while another faces mounting pressure, division, displacement. And rather than relying solely on direct expulsions, settlement expansion frequently operates through cumulative pressure, making ordinary civilian life progressively harder to live through until entire Palestinian communities begin shrinking, abandoning farmland, or leaving altogether. In early 2026, 30 of these illegal settlements were secretly authorized by the Security Cabinet, just as a recent example, and previously built without official authorization, and are now being formalized as legal settlements under Israeli law, though they remain considered illegal under international law. In many cases, legality follows expansion rather than preceding it.
Just for waiting.
Just for waiting?
For making people to wait without any reason. Not expected one. Yes, it's a sudden one. You see this village at the mountain? Do you think this Arabic or Jewish?
Settlement making food.
Hopeless.
Restricted areas, restricted zones. The dividing of the West Bank into different legal and military zones has become the central way through which Palestinian movement, development, and life are controlled. Under the Oslo Accords, the territory was divided into areas A, B, and C. We've already explained the way they're set up. Now, Area C makes up roughly 60% of the West Bank, and it remains fully under Israeli control. And that's predominantly what we're talking about when most of these coverages are going on in this video. Palestinians living in Area C face extreme restrictions on construction, infrastructure, development, water access, and even agriculture expansion. We've already talked about permits for wells and water. You also have them being denied for homes, schools, solar panels. Meanwhile, Israeli settlements continue expanding through state-supported infrastructure, military protection, and road systems that Palestinians themselves cannot freely go on. Beyond these official divisions, an additional layer of restriction exists through checkpoints, military zones, firing zones, separation barriers, and settler-controlled areas, all of which fragment Palestinian communities into isolated communities. They reshape the way that Palestinians are able to live their day-to-day life, turning mobility, economic stability, and even remaining on their land an endeavor. And there is consistent settler attacks and military raids in areas A and B, despite not being under full Israeli control. Military infrastructure. Israeli military bases, checkpoints, surveillance systems, restricted roads, separation barriers, closed military zones are spread throughout the territory, often surrounding or cutting directly through Palestinian communities. While these structures are presented as security measures, in practice they create a network of control that heavily restricts Palestinian movement while simultaneously protecting and allowing settlement expansion nearby. In the rural parts, you see the more escalations and devastation to the herding and farmland communities being taken by these soldiers, particularly in Area C, where many families face constant threat of demolition, confiscation, or forced removal. During settler attacks, soldiers are frequently present either to escort settlers, disperse Palestinians from defending their property, or block residents from returning to targeted areas afterwards. Oftentimes, this infrastructure does more than enforce occupation militarily. It organizes the landscape, it fragments the Palestinian communities, and it allows these settlements, roads, military-controlled corridors to continuously expand over time. And when you destroy the ability for people to sustain life, displacement naturally follows.
ליצור תחושת נרדפות, to create the feeling of being persecuted. That's the language, that's the military language.
But your orders were not to make the Palestinians
of
feel
course,
persecuted.
Yes. They were, of course. The concept in the military says this. If Palestinians will get the feeling that the army is all the time everywhere, they'll be afraid to attack. So what do you do to make them feel this way? You make your presence felt. The idea is very simple. Every Palestinian needs to feel the military is right here. My experience in the occupied territories in general, and especially in Hebron, brought me to start to ask questions I would never ask otherwise. It doesn't take much till it starts to stink. Yeah, you just need to be a bit, 10% honest with yourself to understand that, to start to wonder whether this is the job of a Jewish soldier.
The rules of the occupation. In 2012, he was arrested 20 times, then released. Issa has understood one thing. In the war of images, the victim is the winner.
Ruler gate again. اوكي تודה רבה. תעשה טובה לאנשים מעברים מפה. תעשה טובה להם, מכניס אותם. I can't cross from here.
Why?
Because I am Palestinian.
No Palestinian can cross?
Yeah, except the people who are living there.
After another barrier at the end of the road, the zone reserved for Muslims comes to an end. Before letting us through, the soldier wants to know our religion. Issa makes things difficult for him.
For what do you want to go?
Just to visit him, to film his shop and to say hi. No. They don't believe in God. No God. We can go?
Yeah.
Sure? Sure, fish.
Suddenly, the soldier changes his mind.
Are you calling me?
Passport. We can go.
We can go now? Okay. Listen, I don't have time. I go and come back.
If you go, I'm arrested.
You arrest me? Why to arrest me?
But I say you stay here.
You are allowed to me that I stay here?
Policeman.
It's only in Israel. You are a policeman. Why have to wait, Because you are saying, are you God?
No, I'm a soldier.
You are a soldier? No, he wants me to wait. Now? Yeah, he doesn't want to give me an ID.
I don't know if it helps, but we don't want to be trouble for this man. He was very helpful to us, so I don't know, maybe we can let him go, because he did nothing wrong.
I don't know.
He's saying he did nothing wrong.
Okay, give me an ID. I don't have time. Honestly, I don't have time. Or check it. No, what are you doing? No. What are you doing? Checking? Call. It takes 2 minutes, It takes only 2 minutes, I am the one who knows. Don't give him my ID. Just tell him Issa Amro. Smart better than you. You are very stupid. You are not smart. What to say? You are stupid. You are not smart.
איזה גוטק, תגיע לפה בבקשה. ככה, انت بمسوق على حلبات שוטר.
على ايش؟
حلبات שוטر. תלמד. בוא. תביא את התעודה.
So, for the 6th time in 2013, Issa Amro is arrested.
The first moment I entered the gate of the police station, one of them hit me by the back of the gun on my backbone, and the other one hit me on my neck here. It was obvious that he was detaining me just to humiliate me and to show me that he's stronger and he's the one who is in charge.
You could have shut up and accepted. There was another option. Why didn't you do that?
Usually I don't shut up. It's about me. It's about Issa, how he feels from inside. It's about my dignity. Otherwise I will explode. I will feel just that I'm nothing, I don't want to feel that.
Particularly in Area C, where Israel maintains full administrative and military control. Palestinians attempting to build homes, repair damaged structures, expand villages, or develop basic infrastructure like wells, solar panels are frequently denied their permits, making even ordinary construction effectively illegal. As a result, many families build out of necessity anyway, only to later receive demolition orders from Israeli authorities. At the same time, nearby settlements continue expanding with state-supported infrastructure, protected roads, military backing, and millions of dollars from the Knesset. Not to mention the money our government has ended up contributing to these settlements and taxpayers through nonprofits. A lot of money ends up going to these things through America and through Britain and through France and through Germany, and at this point about 120 countries. Who's counting? Now let's talk about homes deemed illegal. In Area C, Palestinian homes are frequently labeled illegal by Israeli authorities due to the absence of building permits that are themselves extremely difficult for Palestinians to obtain. Families often build homes, animal shelters, water systems, or small extensions out of necessity after years of rejected applications, only to later face demolition orders enforced by the military. Entire communities can live under constant threat of losing their home at any moment, creating a permanent state of instability and uncertainty. Meanwhile, nearby settlements and outposts continue expanding with infrastructure, protection, and state support, reinforcing a system in which Palestinian presence is increasingly restricted while settlement growth continues uninterrupted.
Beneath the village of Al-Mughaya, we watched as IDF soldiers oversaw a digger working on a roadway and a new barrier gate being moved into position from the back of a lorry.
My name's Stuart Ramsey. I'm a reporter for Sky News in England.
Okay, and what's the problem here?
No problem, we were just going to go up to the village, but I can see obviously you're putting in a barrier.
Not now. Okay, so no,
walk here.
It's a military territory, so please turn around and go away.
Okay, could you just explain though, are you putting in a new gate?
This is classified. Please turn around and go away.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll just be up here.
No, so please turn off the camera, turn around and go away. Thank you very much.
Okay, but
Listen, I told you 3 times, this is military territory. Please turn around, turn off the camera and go away.
All right, can I go to the village though?
No.
Is there another way round?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. I'll leave you at that.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Turn off the camera.
Well, obviously there's another gate being built, as simple as that, and we expected them to be unfriendly or at least unpleasant about it. I suppose they've been reasonable, but that's what happens all over the West Bank. These villages, Palestinian villages you can see behind me, get cut off by gates, and that'll be closed, and access in and out is totally controlled. But as we've seen before, it gets described as a military area, and therefore you've got no options, because when they say it's a military area, that's it, you're out.
This goes twofold with expansion. Oftentimes, villages that have been up for decades are restricted from expanding. All of this points to one thing: fragmentation and the slow erasure of the indigenous from their land. The goal of modern displacement is not always immediate expulsion. Sometimes it's to make regular life miserable to the point where the people leave of their own free will.
When the Palestinian land has been taken, Palestinians became refugees around the world because the Zionists has been expelled them from their land in 48, and we are still until now suffering in the diaspora from this refugee problem. They want to keep their occupation and colonization forever. This is not going to happen.
But their politicians say they want to have a two-state solution.
This is lip services. Like, if you really as a politician want two-state solution, prove it in the ground. Stop your settlements, take out your settlers from the West Bank and Jerusalem, stop the demolishing the houses and the ethnic cleansing and confiscating the land, stop the wall that you are building, then we can believe that you want two-state solution.
The mayor of Duma, the violent settlers, and the Israeli government are one and the same.
يعني أول شيء هذول المستوطنين ما يجوش من فراغ، هذول الحكومة الإسرائيلية اللي بتدعمهم، الهدف واضح وجلي، الضغط على السكان الأصليين وتفريغ الأرض من أصحابها حتى تصبح سهلة للسيطرة من قبل المستوطنين على أراضي.
The Palestinians are going through now for 40 years very harsh occupation that is aimed at uprooting them and replacing them and sending them to become new refugees. This is the major aim of this occupation. They want to be instead of the Palestinians, to get rid of the Palestinians and come instead of them. It is a little bit too late in history, but still they are doing all the possible efforts to make it happen. The policy has been supported by so many Jews all over the world. Maybe other people all over the world can come out against the policy of Israel. Boycott of the Israeli goods can be done, and many boycott of contacts with Israel. Many things can be done.
But you are an Israeli yourself, aren't you?
I feel personally very bad. I feel very bad to be part of the Israeli society and very bad to be part of the Israeli occupied power. And I believe I do whatever I can do in order to prevent it.
So there's a lot of sourcing for these things that I'm talking about here. This is not just coming from my head.
Why? When 10 persons in Palestine dead, he don't make anything. If any person in Israel injured, oh, we are terrorists. This is bad situation. Yes or no?
You know, I found that guy's comment pretty endearing and heartwarming and yet sad at the same time, because in 2002 you have Defensive Shield, which kills 500 innocent people. In 2009 you have Caslet, which kills 1,400 innocent people. And then in Protective Edge you have about 900 innocent people killed in 2015. All three of those were in less than 1 month. Just like that. And the world turned away. But when it's October 7th and it's the same amount of people, and yet every single one of those people who crossed the border lived under occupation 27 miles one way, 7 miles the other, and could never leave that place, was sanctioned by the world for 25 years because we forced a democracy election there. Save me the bullshit and the hypocrisy and the double standards when you treat these people harshly for so long they are bound to revolt. The main consensus on Palestine has always been that they voted in terrorists, and because of that, whatever happens to them happens. And isn't that just ironic? With who's prime minister right now, and for 28 years, and for even what they've done for 80 years, and all the terroristic expulsions and demolitions and destruction and bombings that they've done. You know, it's a very ironic thing to say, well, you voted in terrorists, and so whatever happens, happens, when you're freaking Israel. But talking about the stalling of a Palestinian state and the election that we forced, and talking about the reality behind the Palestinian plight of the 1940s are two distinctly separate video ideas from this. And to wrap things up here, entire landscapes are being transformed in real time, not by drought, not by natural disaster, but through policy, demolition, militarization, and displacement because of ethnicity. And it's not just happening in the West Bank and Gaza, it's also happening in Lebanon, and it will continue to happen in other places for the Greater Israel Project to prosper. And long after the headlines are gone, the land remembers the excursions that it was subjugated to. And most importantly, we remember them too.